Okay, so we are Group 19. For the logo, we chose to represent this as G bracket 18 N bracket. Um, Confusing a little bit, but basically what that is the 19th index position of an array. We are a group of 7 computer science and IT majors. We thought we'd throw a little bit of nerd humor into our group. Group 19 is comprised of Nick, our webmaster, Andrew, the historian, Ross, the agenda recorder, Marlon, the minutes recorder, Chad was the treasurer responsible for the funds raised, and Cecil was the treasurer responsible for the coupons we sold, and me, Kyle, the liaison for the group. As far as informal roles go, the ones I can think of were Nick was kind of our central negative. A lot of times when we brought up a new idea, he would be the one to be critical and make us think about it in a new way and possibly dismiss it in favor of something else. Ross was our task leader. Anytime in meetings when we'd go off on a tangent and sort of flounder, he would bring us back on point. And as liaison, I was kind of the information provider. A lot of times we had information that we needed to get from outside of the group, and I would go and talk to people and find out for us.
So on September 17th, our group began brainstorming. We came up with a couple of ideas we tossed around, but we came up with the idea of very basic web development classes at the Boys and Girls Club, which was essentially HTML. It would have been great, and as well as updating the Bloomington's Boys and Girls Club website. But in the end, we found out that only half of the, I guess you could say, the amount raised would be volunteer, and the other part money. And we didn't know that at first. So we ended up we ended up scratching that, and we ended up going with fundraising just overall, because we couldn't do the volunteer, we couldn't do teach classes in the club, and this pretty much meant that we basically had to volunteer to do classes as well as fundraise. The group members, me as well, and the group members, we had no time to work on both of these things at once. So we ended up scratching that idea and going with just fundraising in general.
After a few weeks of brainstorming, our group had finally generated the idea of donating plasma. Our group was so excited to have finally found a plan. However, due to the lack of other practical ideas that were being generated at the time, our group had entered groupthink, in which nearly the entire group was lost in the realm of consensus thinking and overlooked any potential issues. Except for me, that is. Our group's entrance to groupthink essentially started my informal role as a critical advisor. I was the only group member at the time that was trying to find alternatives to donating plasma, and I was thinking of the negatives that could arise from it. However, the idea was ultimately killed off when Megan specifically mentioned in class that plasma donations were not allowed to complete our project goals.
So then 2 more weeks of brainstorming happened after that, and we had, once again, a lot of trouble coming up with ideas that we could all agree on because we needed to raise a lot of money, and there was a lot of options out there that weren't really feasible for what we wanted to do. And so one of the options we came up with was a restaurant night. But during research, we realized that a lot of the places needed things to be set up way in advance for that to really work. And in addition to that, you'd also have to, the restaurant would only donate 10 to 50% of the proceeds, and a lot of places would only donate 10%. And so, bringing that restaurant $7,000 worth of business is kind of ridiculous. And so, but that research led to the idea of selling these Domino's pizza cards, and these cards are called Delivering the Dough, and they're fundraising cards. And it's actually a program that is offered by this semi-local company called MBR Management Corporation. They own 111 Domino's pizza franchises in Illinois and Missouri. And basically the way that works is that we buy from MBR these $1 cards, and we sell those for $10, and so what that means is per card we get $9 in profit. And so doing the math, we decided that if we bought 78 cards and split them up among all of us and sold all of them, after selling 78 cards, we would net $702 in profit. That's after reimbursing ourselves, and so that would allow us to hit our goal.
So working with Domino's was a challenge. After we decided to go with the fundraising cards for Domino's, I finally went up to the Domino's on Beaufort on October 8th. I met with the district manager. His name was Chris, just to figure out what we needed to do to get the fundraising cards. He told me there's an application, and all I had to do is really just bring in the filled out application along with the funds for the cards, and he would pick it up, take it to his headquarters, and bring the cards back to the store about a week later. So 4 days later, on October 12th, I dropped off the application with the funds at the Beaufort Domino's. Chris had told me he would pick it up the next day, but after a week of not hearing from him, I decided to give him a call and find out what was going on. And it turned out he had actually been, it's unclear whether he was let go or quit, but he was no longer working for Domino's. So I went back. I asked him, what happened to our application and the funds, and he said they were probably still at the store. So I went up there, met up with the store manager. His name was Danny, who was actually super helpful and really, really good to work with. He was aware of the situation. He was super apologetic, and he put me in touch with the new district manager. His name was Joe. I texted back and forth with him a little bit, and finally, he said he would work things out for us, and then finally on October 28th we had the cards. Me and Cecil went and picked them up.
We got the cards somewhere between September 28th and November 3rd. We tried finishing up before Thanksgiving, but didn't meet the goal because we were short $300 from our $700 goal. Over break, everyone managed to sell the cards in distinct manners, and by our next meeting after Thanksgiving, we had reached our final goal of $722.
We're satisfied with the outcome, even though we did not reach the early submission deadline. I mean, we really didn't have the possibility of raising more than our goal because we had to buy the cards up front, and purchasing more would mean beginning the process all over again. But, I mean, we could have improved things a lot by, not being hung up on ideas that weren't really feasible for the first month and then waiting on Domino's for another month. And, we had quite a few issues deciding on something efficient and effective. But, it's really a good thing that we started early enough that leaping over these hurdles didn't kill our chances of finishing on time. But we still hoped and expected to get done before the break.
Domino's cards are definitely a feasible option to raise money, especially on a college campus, but really only for a group that'll start the project early and stay on top of selling the cards. The good thing is the cards are relatively low risk. Each card was purchased for about $1, leading to either a $1 loss or a $9 profit. The idea might be better for future groups because the new regional manager that we eventually got in contact with after everything was very eager to help us out. Future groups would also be more likely to receive the cards quicker than our group did, since we got caught in the middle of a fairly unfortunate set of circumstances. Also, many other companies have fundraising opportunities like this, since the cards are pretty cheap advertising, and we found the cards pretty easy to sell, even with our time crunch at the end of the semester.